Hello, and welcome to this foster care online training webinar, Knowing the Terms You Need to Know as a Foster Parent. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, Director and founder of the Foster Care Institute and a foster and adoptive parent. To be sure, these are the terms that I need to know when caring for children, and these are the terms you need to know. Our goal during this foster care online training webinar brought to you by the Foster Care Institute is to define and understand the terms we need to know when caring for children in need. Now, to be sure, there are a number of terms that we hear daily when caring for children in foster care. Some of these terms become very familiar to us and become part of our day-to-day vocabulary. At the same time, there may be some terms we are unfamiliar with. So we're going to do these terms in alphabetical order, and these are the most common terms that you need to know as you care for children in need. Now, whether you are a foster parent, whether you are a caseworker or a social worker, whether you are a CASA or a child advocate in some way, or maybe you are a judge or an attorney, these are terms that you need to be familiar with when you're caring for children in foster care. Let's begin, shall we? Abuse. Abuse is the physical, mental, or sexual injury of a child by a person who may be any household or family member who is responsible for the child's care or supervision, as well as any indications that a child's health or welfare is harmed or threatened. Now, to reiterate, abuse is the physical, mental, or sexual injury of a child by another person. Adoption. A legal process in which a person related or unrelated to a child becomes the adoptive family for that child, and he or she is given all of the legal rights and privileges as if he or she were born to that family. The child's birth parents no longer have any legal responsibilities or rights after an adoption. Adoptive parents or adoptive family. Persons who did not give birth to a child, but selected that child to be a member of their family. After a legal adoption, adoptive parents or adoptive family have all of the legal rights of natural parents. Agency. An agency is a public or private organization providing a service. Now, we hear agency a lot when we're caring for children in foster care. We may know of a state agency or a private agency. Again, these are organizations, public or private, providing a service, and for this case, providing a service for child welfare. Advocate. An advocate is a person who acts or who speaks on behalf of another person, in this case most likely a child, to get things done for that person or to get things done for that child. Anxiety. A feeling of being fearful, of being worried, or a feeling of being nervous. This feeling may interfere with playing. This feeling may interfere with learning, and this feeling may interfere with a sense of well-being. Assessment, also sometimes called evaluation. An assessment is the process of obtaining information from tests and observations. Attorney or a lawyer. An attorney or a lawyer is a person who will represent legal desires and the legal interests while a child is placed in the foster care system. Biological or birth parents. A biological or birth parent is the parents who gave birth to a child who was then placed in to the foster care system. Child advocate. A child advocate is a person who gets to know the child and advocates or fights, if you will, for the best interest and the wishes of the child he or she is advocating for. Now, as an aside here, some children may have a child advocate fighting for them, some children may not. Every child needs some advocate of some kind. Child Protective Services, sometimes known as CPS. Child Protective Services, a child welfare program responsible for investigating reports of child abuse and neglect, as well as providing services to families in crisis. Child Protective Services are usually the first service that a child and a family receive to prevent the child's removal from his or her home and placement into foster care or placed into a foster home setting. Continuance. Continuance is when there is an unresolved issue in the case of the child. The court case may continue services or delay a decision until the case issue is resolved. Counseling. Counseling are mental health services for individuals, for families, for couples, or counseling can be for other groups of people as well. Court liaison. A court liaison is the social worker attending uncontested court proceedings on behalf of the child's social worker. Custody. Custody is a legal term describing the legal right or the legal responsibility of either a person or an agency to make decisions about where a child should live. Depression. Sad or lonely feelings that are sometimes caused by a certain event or hormones in the body. It may interfere with a person's daily functions. A court-appointed special advocate, commonly known as a CASA. A court-appointed special advocate, or CASA, is a trained volunteer appointed by the court to ensure the safety of children placed into foster care and that they receive the services that they need. Eligibility. Eligibility is the determination that a child does or does not qualify to receive services based on certain rules. Emancipation. Emancipation is the legal process by which a minor child petitions the court to allow him to become an adult in the eyes of the law before his 18th birthday. Emergency foster care. Emergency foster care is the immediate placement in foster care because of a crisis related to a child or a crisis related to her family. Family conference. A family conference is a group decision meeting to resolve issues. Issues such as visitation, issues such as placement of children, issues such as long-term plans, emancipation, and even issues of reunification plans. Family court. Family court deals with family matters such as custody, such as divorce, such as child support, etc. Foster adoption. Foster adoption is a foster family who requests to be considered to adopt a child in foster care. Foster child. A foster child is a child up to 18 years of age in some states and 21 years of age in other states, placed in the care of a local department of social services by either a voluntary placement agreement with the birth family, the adoptive family, the legal guardian, or by a court commitment order. Foster care. Foster care is a short-term service consisting of placing a child in a foster family home, a group facility, or placed into a semi-independent living arrangement. Foster care placement. An approved family home, a group home setting, or a residential treatment facility where a child will reside 24 hours a day and receive care, receive nurturing, and receive support. Foster parent. A foster parent is a relative or non-relative adult who is approved by the local Department of Social Services to protect, to nurture, to educate, and to care for a child. Guardian ad litem, otherwise known as a GLA. A guardian ad litem is a person the court appoints to investigate what solutions would be in the best interests of a child. A GED, as is most commonly known as, is a general education development. A GED, or general education development, is a series of reading and math schoolwork upon completion of which a diploma of completion is conferred. Home study. A home study is an in-depth study of potential adoptive family and their physical residence, or a potential adoptive foster family and their physical residence. Home studies are conducted by an adoption home study social worker or a foster care home social worker when a family has indicated that they want to be considered as a foster family or as an adoptive family. Home visit. A home visit is a visit that are made by a caseworker in the home where the child in foster care is living or in the home of the birth parents. Home visits refer to the location of the visit if it takes place in a home, whether it is the birth parent's home or the foster parent's home. Individual education program, known as an IEP, and Individualized Family Service Plan, known as an IFSP. These are educational service plans that are developed by a school to provide needed special education services for a child. Jurisdictional hearing. A jurisdictional hearing is a hearing to determine if the child will be made a dependent of the juvenile court. Juvenile court. A juvenile court is a court system that deals with dependent children. Mental health service. Mental health service are services provided to assist individuals in identifying and resolving issues that impacts one's thoughts and one's behaviors. The main goal is to make self-improvements and learn ways to cope with an individual's concerns. A mentor. A mentor is an individual who listens, supports, and encourages another individual. A mentor serves as a role model and helps a child get through difficult times. Neglect. Neglect occurs when one is not providing food or clothing or shelter or health care or education to a child. Out of home placement. Out of home placement, a short-term care that consists of 24-hour care and supervision, as well as supportive services for a child whom the local Department of Social Services has determined needs to live outside the home because a child has been abused, the child has been abandoned, the child has been neglected, or because his or her family is unable to provide care. Parenting class. Parenting classes are offered to parents to teach parenting skills and parenting techniques. It is often a court-ordered decision for the birth parents when a child is placed into the foster care system. Permanency plan hearing. Permanency plan hearing is a court hearing for all children in foster care that must occur within 11 months of coming into foster care, and every 6 months after that until a child leaves the foster care system. Reunification. Reunification occurs when a foster child or a child placed into foster care returns to his birth parents or biological family members or relatives. Residential placement. A private or public group type facility that provides 24-hour care for a child who has medical or emotional needs. Semi-independent living arrangement, often known as SILA. Semi-independent living arrangement is a placement in an apartment, in a room or college campus for a child to practice living independently. Sibling contact. Sibling contact occurs when there is visitation between children in the same family. Oftentimes, sibling contact is ordered by the court or can be set up by the child's social worker or social workers. Special needs. Special needs are considered if a child has complex medical, behavioral, or complex emotional needs, or even developmental disabilities. Substance abuse treatment. Generally, counseling provided through a reputable treatment program to address drug and alcohol dependency and use or abuse. Substance abuse treatment is often court ordered. Supervised visit. A supervised visit is a visit between a child and a birth parent or a birth relative or biological family member that is conducted under the supervision of a third party. Termination of parental rights, often known as TPR. Termination of parental rights is when a judge signs an order that permanently ends the ties between a child and his or her parents. Temporary assistance to needy families, otherwise known as TANF or TANF. Temporary assistance to needy families occurs when there are temporary funds given to assist families that are in crisis and who need financial help. Treatment foster care, otherwise known as TFC. Treatment foster care is a program in which foster parents are trained by professionals to provide care for children with disabilities or with serious health care needs that require special services. The children or the youth in treatment foster care have an extra caseworker, a TFC caseworker, that sees them once a week and helps them through the crisis. Transition. Transition is the process of moving from one living arrangement or one home or facility to another. Unsupervised visit. An unsupervised visit is the visitation between a child and his or her birth parent or biological family member or relative without the supervision of a third party. Voluntary placement. Voluntary placement occurs when a child's parent or guardian places him or her temporarily into the foster care system. This is done by signing a voluntary placement agreement with the local Department of Social Services instead of going to court. Voluntary placement provides care for a child when his or her parents are unable to do so. If a child is in foster care voluntarily for more than 6 months, the court will then hold a hearing to determine whether or not he or she, or determine whether or not the child should remain in the foster care system. These are just many of the terms that are most common in foster care. The terms that you will most commonly come across or hear when you are caring for children in need, working with children in need, or being an advocate for a child in need. For this complete list and so much more, check out the book, The Foster Care Survival Guide, the essential guide for today's foster parents. You can find this book on the Foster Care Institute website, where you can get a signed copy. You can find it on Amazon.com and online, and you can find it in all good bookstores. And of course, there are a number of foster care resources and books designed for your foster care needs as you care for children in need. My friend, I wish to thank you for taking this webinar with the Foster Care Institute, and I wish to thank you if you are a paid member of the Foster Care Institute. You can download this certificate online at the Foster Care Institute. I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for caring for children in need. I want to thank you for fighting for a child who needs someone to fight for them. And I want to thank you for all that you do each day for a child out there. With so many children being placed in the foster care system, and with so few foster parents, so few CASAs and advocates, and so few caseworkers, you truly are making a difference for a child in need. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo. Thank you.